Good morning, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut with Francisco Rubalcava Jr. in this Real Estate Jerky. Before the mics were hot, you were complaining. I'm just kidding. We were talking a little bit about multifamily, and I'm not talking duplex, triplex, fourplex, but there is, from what I'm hearing, a potential for a huge, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an opportunity, but also, there's a huge distress in the multifamily space. That would be anything over 5 units up to, huge apartment complexes, hotels, other things that have had issues over the past. I don't want to say issues, but basically over the past, I don't know, 4 years, people have bought a lot of apartment complexes and other things and early on, and they didn't always tie it to the best type of loan program, how they bought it. And for some of these people to refinance now with rates where they are right now, the stuff doesn't pencil for them. Penciling to me means that when you run the numbers, it doesn't add up to make sense to keep it. And so they're going to start seeing defaults. So it's a huge opportunity for people who have cash to come in and buy these things. I mean, cash, there's a lot of money out there waiting for this. And it's a huge opportunity for people.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too is
It must be that would be a siren probably and a dog going woo. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it was so going on that, I think as because there's a lot of opportunity still where exactly like you said, I mean, it doesn't even have to be a super expensive type of property as long as it's it's 5 units, right?
5 or more,
right? Because I mean, realistically, there are still options like even around here that sometimes have 5 units that are I don't want to say affordable, but a lot more accessible than for example, an apartment,
30 units. We're not gonna,
yeah.
But see, there and a lot of these people, like I interviewed a guy, he's coming on the radio this weekend, and he does stuff in Cleveland, and they buy Class C. So there's A, B, and C class apartment complexes. And the best one is to buy a B, right? But a lot of them they bought C's and cleaned them up and turned them into B's and then that kind of stuff. And long term, they make money off of. Some people just didn't, I don't know if they didn't do it right, but a lot of people thought that rates would never go up. And when I interviewed Jake and Gino, and that's a group who does tons of multifamily, and one of the things they were talking about how they did a lot of the Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae does apartment complexing and multifamily money, and they were getting 4.75 back then when people were like, why are you doing that? Get these adjustables over here for this. And they're like, no, we want to keep these for long term.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I mean, a lot of the people that locked in to those, variable rates, I mean, they could always get really ugly and people know it. I never understood why people went for it. I think, you had even mentioned a little bit off air where like, some people were opting out for like the different option that was higher, but had more security. I think,
right. Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, there's private money. Private money is anywhere from, depending on who, but on average back then would be, 7 to 10%, or could be, if it was owner, 5 to 6%. I'm not talking on multifamily. I'm just talking in general, but a lot of these people have private money ready to go to purchase things. Right. And I don't think we talked about it this week, but there's a huge thing going on in San Diego for veterans, and they're talking about how they can help them buy property and to get passive income using their VA loan and all that stuff. Well, there's a great way to do it. With the VA loan, you can buy a fourplex as long as you qualify for the whole thing. Down the road, you can use the rents, but not when you first buy it. But what I'm getting at is you got to be very careful on the fact, I think we talked about this already, that there's a difference between 15 years ago and of most of these people who are teaching these classes now and going forward for the next 20 years. It's a different game. There's not enough properties on the market. Now, multifamily that we first talked about, there might be some good opportunities coming up, but the 2 to 4plex that we looked at, all of them around here, Turlock, whatever, and they're so expensive, like you said, and the rents don't cover that. At all, because people have not kept up with the rents, or they think their fourplex is so much better than another one when it needs so much work.
Yeah, I see that a lot. There's a lot of these multi-units that are within that more accessible range where you can get somewhat of a normal financing as opposed to having to take the commercial route.
Right.
But yeah, even then it just doesn't work out. I mean, you have to put so much money down, and then,
You're talking about the 2 to 4-plex, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to put so much money down for it to pencil out. And it's exactly because of that. So many people were not doing it, and then now they want to sell them for these really big prices, but people can't afford it if it's going to be in that aspect. I mean, you have people, I've seen some, triplexes, each unit only getting like $800, and they're
There was
trying
one
to
at
sell them for
Tur
like 600.
Yeah, there's one at Turlock, it was like 700 and each one was $800. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I've helped some people up in certain areas buy those and we did what, did well, but I was, with the new laws on how you can raise rents and everything, you have to be very careful how you do those,
Right.
right?
Because, and that's the thing, right? Is like I've said before as well, is that it's okay if it's not exactly making it right now. But when there's a big discrepancy like that, like, you should reconsider.
And I don't know if you can kick them out and remodel everything either anymore. I don't know the whole
No.
rule. So.
You have to, it has to like actually be pretty bad for you to like do that. Um, it's, it's changed. It's changed quite a bit. And I think, exactly what we said. I mean, we just don't have enough out there to be able to even negotiate on these properties, which is crazy because they're still selling and at those crazy prices.
Because they're not going to be, we're not making it anymore. I mean, there's a few people making multifamily, but they're apartment complexes and they're holding on to them. I mean, I interviewed a guy who was like, "Oh, this is what we're doing. We're building affordable housing." Come to find out, they're just building apartment complexes to stick people in and keeping them. That's not affordable housing.
Yeah. No,
To me, affordable housing is helping people buy homes so they're affordable. They don't have to worry about in the future the rent going up. That's what I want to see more of.
right. Well, like even, I even have it's like this group of investors that I've been helping that are working on either, they're either going to build or they have plans and everything ready to go, or they're just going to sell their land with the plans and try to sell it off like that. But it's crazy. I mean, people are finding a lot of ways to cram a lot of units onto small lots. Like I think it was a 7,000 square foot lot, and they were going to have a total of 8 units.
How's it? Was it two-story?
Two-story.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, is that like right over there off of Tully and Orangeburg?
No, it's they haven't even started on it. It was going to be more so closer to like or on like 7th Street, and that's where I've been seeing a lot too. Is
well, that'd be nice to go down there and clean that up.
Well,
that side of the freeway. Yeah.
Well, and that's and there's a calling for it. A lot of people that work downtown, I mean, they could just walk there.
If it was clean.
Right.
It's not.
And that's where, and it would be nice to see that happen, but it's just it's so costly. Like even for them, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why they, I had first met with them last year, I want to say like in October, and they were like, "Yes, we're going to be starting building, beginning of the year." And then it changed up to like, "Hey, how much do you think we could sell it for if we," you know what I mean? Because it's one thing when you're getting your plans and everything, but then once you actually start, getting the proper permissions and everything, and then you start trying to build, it's like, whoa,
and all the other stuff.
yeah,
It's ridiculous. That's why we said before, instead of doing this dream for some, why don't we take that money and help builders build by paying, getting the lots cheaper, the permits cheaper, having the cities and counties cut all those costs so that they can build these houses so much cheaper. And I know a lot of them, well, they make so much money off them. Well, then if you're going to help them out by their cost, then there's a max that they can make. How about that? Make it limit them to like 30% increase or something that'll make sense, but let's make it cheaper for them to actually own, to produce these things. And that's the issue. I mean, but Modesto pays how much for some of these hotels downtown to put people in? Just ridiculous.
yeah. No, because when you're bringing up the whole thing with veterans, I even saw, I believe it was earlier this morning, it was an ad that said that they're trying to allocate like $2 billion of money to go towards helping disabled veterans, because there's a huge statistic of disabled veterans that are like homeless, and it is something that again, I agree, they should definitely get that help, but again, finding maybe, like we're saying, right, a different way to like allocate, like even if there were specific areas, which I mean, I guess it could be like redlining or something. So it's hard, right? But finding specific areas that you can help fund a bit more, so that they can make it more affordable for these people. Because I mean, even with the VA loan, right? Like you still have to obviously make a certain amount. And
Right. It's not free.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's still it's difficult, and I
It's
think
difficult in California. You have to move to a different state if you can't, if you're not going to make enough. And I hate to say that, but if you don't make 120 grand, you're not going to buy anything.
right.
Not in our area anyway. And definitely not towards the Bay. Or double and triple that thing.
So
But
many
you're
people are leaving though.
leaving what?
The Bay. I mean, like San
Coming
Francisco.
this way? Yeah.
Well, not even just that, but businesses just straight up pulling out. I think that there's a lot of like fast food and like pharmacies that are just like they're done.
Well, that's because they keep getting shit stolen, and then all of a sudden now the Democrats are like, "Oh, look, I guess we should have not done these laws."
The $900 thing.
Yeah, even the governor's like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Oh, she told me it was my fault that these people are stealing." It is your fault to having your Secretary of State put a thing on the ballot that said it was a Safe Neighborhood Act, which has had to do with I'm sure 90% of the people who read that was like, oh, that's to make our neighborhoods more safe. I don't need it doing. Yes.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's complete opposite. So when you have your Secretary of State do that stuff, you know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, it is a negative, and that's why I think, there really needs to be a change in, our administration, everything like
how about
across
this?
the board.
You get your people to come out and vote, and you can make a major change.
Well,
and I don't mean that right. Like, what do you mean, my people?
No,
no, I mean Hispanic voters come out. If you came out and your age also, Francisco, your age group came out, you would control the election.
That's and it is a big thing. And I feel, again, and even with like my generation, everything, there's people that are like scared, or like think that they'll be seen differently for voting a certain way, right? But I've always said, hold on, vote your pocketbook.
Yeah, that's my phrase from my grandfather: vote your pocketbook. But here's the issue: the only people that know who you vote is yourself.
Yeah,
your name's not on the damn thing once they put it in the system. It's not tied together when you vote in person. Now, when you mail it in, it's on the envelope, but then they separate the two.
Yeah,
and for me, I was like, that's fucking no wonder they can cheat. You separate the two and your name's not on there anymore. Well, we have voter integrity rules where you got to have it's like, okay, there is a problem, but I get it. They don't want to come after people, but you have to vote. Yeah, it doesn't change unless you vote.
Right. And that is something that, again, and I myself am a culprit of it, where I had an opportunity the last time and I didn't. And, and that's the thing is.
So you voted for Biden.
Well,
when you don't vote, you fight for the incumbent. Like, I mean, you not the incumbent, but the person that other people are voting for. You got to be there. You have to help. Come on, Francisco for mayor.
Well, and again, I mean, I think, and media has a lot to do with it, for a lot of people. Honestly, for me, I told myself I didn't have the time when I was, you know what I mean? But it's like, and that's what's important, is we have to actually make an effort for these things, because if not, we're just going to be getting ran to the ground. And I mean, you think of like all these people that are working in the government and all this stuff, and they're making tons of money because they're hearing all the reads and everything, and while they're expressing that they're trying to help us, I mean, they first help themselves. And that's the harsh reality of it that I think not enough people understand, right? When they're saying like tax the rich and tax that, you're not taxing the rich, you're taxing people like my dad, he works, man, over like 80 hours a week, for his business, doing his stuff. And not to say that he struggles still, but it's like, you work so much and then you're paying so much, and you have all these fees and all this stuff and all these taxes, and it's like, it's like he could have like, spent time somewhere else or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And
more time with your mom, the family.
Right. I mean, and he works so much, and it's like, it's a pretty intensive job. And I mean, he's driving consistently, and it's like, it's crazy to me because those are the people that get hurt. And for a lot of, Hispanic people too, it's great that you bring that up, because it is important. Like, there's a lot of Hispanic people out there who, truckers or they work in pavement or these different things, or they have different companies, concrete, you name it, right, that are working really, really hard. And they're even blinded, right? The Hispanic media too is really like that. They try to make, the Republican side of things seem very evil, and it's crazy to me. I mean, just the way that the media works is they do it a lot. And I think people need to take a step back and really like understand. And I mean, it doesn't even take that long, even with my parents. I mean, I told them, turn that stuff off. And it's funny because it was almost like me having them understand, like, hey, these things that you think are helping you are going completely against you.
Mhm.
And it's, it would be really nice, especially, I've even seen a statistic where it says that I think 70% of people from now until like 2040 that are going to be purchasing are going to be like a majority is going to be Hispanic people. So
You
there's
guys
a
are
big
50
wave.
in California, like 56% of the population, or
Yeah.
40 for, it's a lot.
Right.
And that's you guys have power behind what you can do if you understand that. And actually, you're right, the media is the worst at this, because if you know anything about what's going on, if once you start listening and looking and reading about each party and how they were created and why they were created and still do it to this day, I have no idea why anybody votes Democrat. I voted Democrat in the past. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked at the nationalities that still vote Democrat when that is the party. And whether they're Democrat or not, I'm apologizing, but I'm just going off of fact that that they fought for slavery when the Republicans are the ones who fought against slavery. In civil rights movement that was put on the floor, it was the Democrats who did the filibuster to stop it from being passed. Go back and read this stuff. Understand the stuff. All the statues they tore down were Democratic. They were Democrats, slave owners, and other people, and they wanted it gone so that people couldn't say that's who they were. And I know I'm getting way off, and I apologize, but you have to know the history so we don't repeat it.
Yeah, I think, well, and that's what's so important about history, right? Is like, that's why we said it, and that's why it's written down, is so that we don't make those mistakes. But again, I think you know it's like, it's a lot of what is said is, what gets to people's emotions, right?
Mhm.
And I think that people need to like stop that, because again, it's what's leading to our demise. It's what's leading to difficulties in people owning homes. It's what's leading into people not even being able to rent, right?
Right.
And the way that, people are losing their jobs, all these things. I mean, it's like, it's a snowball effect. And that's the biggest thing, is that, unfortunately, and I'm not even super well versed in all this stuff, but I see enough to where I'm like, all right, that's not right, and it's not leading to our favor. And again, it's finding out a way of like, and once again, those people that claim that they're helping us, and that they're doing that. I mean, look at their bank accounts, right? You could even see some of the way that these people are gaining off of their stock market,
Mhm.
calls and everything. It's crazy,
That's
and we're left in the dust.
that's why companies have created ways that you can actually follow the politicians' trade, so you can do the same trades and make the same amount of money they are.
Yeah.
And that's just tells you it shouldn't be that way. If you go to public service, you should not be able to own stock or trade or anything, because they're all making money off of everything they do, and that's just ridiculous. And they're supposed to be there. And public servants there should be term limits, all this other stuff. Not going to happen because they're making way too much money. But until that happens, we're going to have the same problem. And I don't know what else to say, because we've been doing this for 18 minutes. But if we offended you, we apologize. We just want you to look. Don't just read the headlines. Read the damn article, because most of the time it says that will only happen if this happens on a Tuesday within the month of May. It never, that everybody reads the headlines and runs with it, and they never read the article. And that's the problem these days. Plus, the articles don't have to be correct anymore. That was a lawsuit done back in the 90s, came out and said, oh, the judge said, no, they don't have to be accurate on their reporting.
Yeah.
It's been down ever since. Sorry. Anything else before we go?
No, just at the end of the day, like we said, I mean, just at least do like a bit of research so that you understand how these things are impacting us, because it makes it harder for
Mhm.
common people like us to continue and move along and grow.
Mhm.
If not, I mean, we're just, these mega millionaires and stuff are going to keep buying up these houses, and it's getting harder and harder for us. So we just have to really understand. um Without understanding, I mean, we won't get anywhere. So anyways,
Look what Oprah did to Hawaii, Maui,
yeah.
with the fires. She went in and bought thousands of more acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's, and again, it's,
But I'm here to help me.
No, yeah, across the board, again, it's like you're saying. I mean, just put some thought into it. Really put some thought into it, and see how again it is affecting us.
Right.
Again, like we're saying, common people that aren't these mega millionaires that are making. I mean, we work really hard. All of us do, and we all deserve to have a shot at least home ownership. But exactly like Ed said earlier today, when you need to be making at least 120 grand to purchase a house.
And that's not an amazing house in an amazing neighborhood either.
No, and that changed drastically. I started doing this 5.5 years ago. 5.5 years ago, if you were making 70, 80 grand, you could do it.
So, and when rates are real low, 60.
Yeah.
In some places, because that how values have went up. But you're right. The issue, and let's go back to last thing I'll say on the election. Don't vote party, vote person. Figure out who that person is. Don't vote just because you think you got to vote your party. Don't. You really need to research everybody, but people don't have time. I get that. So find somebody you trust and that is into this stuff and go off of what they say.
Yeah. No, and there's a lot of great people out there that are doing, I mean, and a lot of people who, again, even like you said, at one point we're voting a different way and now are changing because it's like things are just getting out of hand.
That was a long time ago. Because they say if you don't vote a liberal at 25, you don't have a heart. And they say if you don't vote Republican by 30, you don't have a brain.
That's a good one.
No, that's not me. I'm just saying that. So basically, a lot of times people vote a certain way because that's how they're told. As we're younger, we don't always make the best decisions, right? Voting because we vote off of emotion and other things. We don't start thinking until it really affects us. And right now, look, interest rates went up 5% because of who was elected in the last election. Everybody's going, no, it was the inflation. That was caused by like the pipeline being shut down, the transportation person not doing their job. All this stuff caused this inflation that, guess what? The prices will never go back down on goods. They just won't. The inflation they talk about right now is only 2% or whatever the number is. That's on top of what already went up. Yeah, I'm done. We'll be here another half hour if I keep going.
Right. No, it's yeah. Well, either way, again, across the board, we have the power to change how we're going to move forward. So, that's what we're asking for is just, and again, like Ed said, it's not even about voting a specific party, but looking at the person and really seeing what their goal is and what their agenda is and what they're pushing out. That's what's important. And we owe it to ourselves to properly educate ourselves on it and see how it's going to affect us exactly. Like Ed said earlier too, not now, but 15 years from now, what's going to be happening. We have to future proof our lives. And the only way to do it is, by being more involved in these things. But anyway,
educating children too. What's really going on, because they've educated the children over the past 15 years to get them all messed up the way they are now. So be careful. All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to us. If you did, we appreciate it. If you have any comments, please send them all to Francisco.
Text them to 209-493-2400.
And if you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to me. I'm Ed Parcaut everywhere. Francisco, thanks for coming in today. And thank you for watching and listening. Make it